The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. In a remote desert, far from any city lights, a small group of humans stood frozen, staring at the sky. A streak of light cut through the darkness, growing brighter and louder until it crashed into the ground with a deafening roar. The ground shook, and a cloud of dust rose into the air. When the dust settled, they saw it, a massive, alien ship, unlike anything they had ever imagined. Its surface was covered in strange symbols, and it pulsed with a faint, eerie light. The ship was badly damaged, with cracks running through its hull and smoke rising from its engines. The group, a mechanic, a scientist, and a former soldier, approached the ship cautiously. The mechanic, known for his curiosity, was the first to touch the ship's surface. It was warm, almost alive. The scientist scanned the ship with a handheld device, her eyes wide with disbelief. This technology is centuries ahead of anything we have, she whispered. The soldier, always cautious, kept his distance. We don't know what's inside. This could be dangerous, he said, his hand resting on his weapon. But the mechanic was already moving toward a gaping hole in the ship's side. We have to see, he said, his voice filled with determination. Inside, the ship was a maze of twisted metal and strange, glowing panels. The air was thick with an unfamiliar scent, like burnt metal and something sweet. They moved deeper into the ship, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Then they found it, a chamber, filled with strange equipment and a single, alien figure. It was slumped against a wall, its breathing shallow. The alien was unlike anything they had ever seen, with smooth, silver skin and large, dark eyes. It looked up at them, its gaze filled with pain and urgency. "Help us," it whispered in a voice that echoed in their minds. "They are coming." Before they could ask any questions, the alien's eyes closed, and its body went still. The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the ship's dying systems. The three humans exchanged glances, their hearts racing. They had no idea what they had just stumbled into, but one thing was clear: their lives, and the fate of the entire planet, were about to change forever. The silence in the alien ship was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of its failing systems. The three humans stood frozen, staring at the lifeless alien. Its silver skin glowed faintly under their flashlights, and its large, dark eyes seemed to stare into nothingness. The air was thick with tension, and the weight of the alien's final words hung over them like a storm cloud. "They are coming." The mechanic was the first to move. He knelt beside the alien, his hands trembling as he examined its strange, otherworldly suit. "This isn't just a ship," he said, his voice low. "This is a warship. Look at these markings, they're battle scars." The scientist stepped closer, her device still scanning the alien and its surroundings. "This technology, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. The energy readings are off the charts. If we can figure out how it works." "If," the soldier interrupted, his voice sharp. "We don't even know what we're dealing with." That thing said, "They are coming." Who's they? And what do they want? No one had an answer. The alien's warning was vague, but the urgency in its voice had been unmistakable. Something terrible was on its way, and this broken ship was somehow connected to it. The mechanic stood up, his face pale but determined. "We need to get this ship out of here. If anyone else finds it, it could cause a panic. Or worse, it could fall into the wrong hands." The scientist nodded. "Agreed. But we can't move it like this. The engines are completely destroyed. We'll need to repair it, or at least get it functional enough to hide it somewhere safe." The soldier crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing. "And how exactly are we supposed to do that? None of us knows how this thing works. For all we know, touching the wrong button could blow us all to pieces." "We don't have a choice," the mechanic said firmly. "That alien didn't come here by accident. It was running from something bad enough to scare a species with technology like this. If we don't figure this out, we're all dead. The words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. The three of them knew he was right. They were in over their heads, but there was no turning back now. Over the next few hours, they worked tirelessly to secure the ship. The mechanic used his tools to patch up the most critical damage, while the scientist studied the alien's equipment, trying to make sense of its advanced systems. The soldier kept watch, his eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble. As the sun began to rise, the scientist made a breakthrough. She found a small, glowing device near the alien's body. It looked like a control panel, but it was unlike anything she had ever seen. When she touched it, the ship's systems flickered to life, and a holographic map appeared in the air before them. The map showed a star system they didn't recognize, with a single planet highlighted in red. The alien's voice echoed in their minds once more, but this time, it was a recording. This is a warning to all who find this ship. The Krylos Empire is coming. They destroy everything in their path, planets, civilizations, entire star systems. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. But this ship is the key. It holds the technology to fight back. Use it wisely. Protect your world. Time is running out. The hologram faded, leaving the three humans in stunned silence. The weight of the alien's message was overwhelming. They weren't just dealing with a broken ship, they were dealing with the survival of their entire planet. The soldier was the first to speak. We need to tell someone. The government, the military, someone who can handle this. No, the mechanic said quickly. If we tell anyone, this ship will be taken away from us. We'll lose control of it. And if what that alien said is true, we don't have time to waste on bureaucracy. We need to fix this ship ourselves. The scientist nodded in agreement. He's right. We're the only ones who know about this. If we're going to protect Earth, it's up to us. The soldier hesitated, his instincts telling him to follow protocol. But deep down, he knew they were right. This was bigger than any of them. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the three of them made a pact. They would keep the ship a secret. They would repair it, learn its secrets, and prepare for the coming threat. It was a daunting task, but they had no other choice. Little did they know, their actions would set off a chain of events that would change the course of history. The broken alien ship was more than just a vessel, it was a symbol of hope, a weapon against an unimaginable enemy, and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. But time was running out. Somewhere in the depths of space, the Krylos Empire was closing in, and Earth was their next target. The days turned into weeks as the three humans worked tirelessly on the alien ship. They set up a makeshift camp near the crash site, hidden from prying eyes by the vast, empty desert. The ship became their world, its strange hum a constant reminder of the task ahead. The mechanic, with his practical skills, focused on repairing the ship's physical damage. He used whatever tools and materials he could find, improvising when necessary. The alien metal was unlike anything he had ever worked with, lightweight yet incredibly strong, and it seemed to repair itself when exposed to certain types of energy. The scientist spent her days studying the ship's systems. The alien technology was far beyond human understanding, but she was determined to crack its secrets. She discovered that the ship was powered by a mysterious energy source, something the alien AI referred to as quantum flux. It was a form of energy that defied the laws of physics as humans knew them, and it was the key to the ship's advanced capabilities. The soldier, meanwhile, took on the role of protector. He kept watch over the camp, ensuring that no one stumbled upon their secret. He also trained the other two in basic self-defense, knowing that they might have to fight to protect the ship. Despite their progress, the work was slow and frustrating. The alien technology was incredibly complex, and every breakthrough seemed to lead to 10 new questions. The team often argued, their stress and exhaustion boiling over into heated debates. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the mechanic slammed his wrench down in frustration. "This is impossible. We're never going to figure this out in time. That alien said the Krylos Empire is coming, but we don't even know when or where they'll strike. We're sitting ducks." The scientist sighed, rubbing her tired eyes. "We're doing the best we can. But you're right, we need more information. Maybe there's something in the ship's database that can help us." She turned to the alien control panel, which had become their primary interface with the ship's systems. After a few moments of searching, she found a file labeled Krylos Empire. She opened it, and a holographic image of a massive, menacing fleet appeared in the air before them. The ships were sleek and black, with sharp, angular designs that made them look like predators. The hologram showed them destroying planets, reducing entire civilizations to ash in a matter of hours. The team watched in horrified silence as the images played out before them. This is what we're up against?" the soldier asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The scientist nodded grimly. "According to the data, the Krylos Empire has been conquering star systems for centuries. They're ruthless, efficient, and unstoppable. But there's something else." She paused, her eyes scanning the information. The alien who brought this ship here was part of a resistance movement. They were trying to develop a weapon that could defeat the Krylos Empire. This ship was their prototype, but it was damaged during a battle. That's why it crashed here. The mechanic leaned forward, his frustration replaced by a glimmer of hope. "So this ship isn't just a random wreck. It's a weapon. If we can fix it, we might have a chance." "Exactly," the scientist said. "But we're running out of time. The data shows that the Krylos Empire is already on its way to Earth. We have weeks, maybe days, before they arrive." The soldier clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "Then we need to work faster. We can't let them destroy our planet." The team redoubled their efforts, working around the clock to repair the ship and unlock its secrets. They discovered that the ship's AI, which they nicknamed Echo, was more than just a computer. It was a sentient being, capable of learning and adapting. Echo became their guide, helping them navigate the ship's systems and providing valuable insights into the alien technology. As the days passed, the ship began to transform. Its damaged hull was repaired, its engines roared to life, and its weapon systems were activated. The team felt a growing sense of hope, but they also knew that the real challenge was still ahead. One night, as they gathered around a small fire outside the ship, the mechanic broke the silence. "Do you think we can really do this? I mean, we're just 3 people. How are we supposed to take on an entire empire?" The scientist looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. "We don't have a choice. This ship is our only hope. And if we fail..." She didn't finish the sentence, but they all knew what she meant. If they failed, Earth would be destroyed, and humanity would be wiped out. The soldier stood up, his face hard with resolve. "Then we won't fail. We'll do whatever it takes to protect our planet. No matter what." The others nodded, their fear replaced by a steely determination. They were no longer just a mechanic, a scientist, and a soldier. They were a team, united by a common goal and a shared purpose. As they returned to the ship, Echo's voice echoed through the air. "Warning, Krylos fleet approaching. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. The countdown had begun." The warning from Echo sent a chill through the team. 72 hours. That was all the time they had before the Krylos Empire reached Earth. The weight of the countdown pressed down on them, but there was no time to panic. They had to act fast. The first step was to gather more information about the enemy. The scientists spent hours poring over the ship's database, searching for anything that could give them an advantage. She discovered detailed profiles of the Krylos Empire's ships, their weapons, and their tactics. They're not just powerful, she explained to the others. They're methodical. They don't just attack, they study their targets, find their weaknesses, and exploit them. They've destroyed entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. The soldier frowned. So how do we fight something like that? We're outnumbered and outgunned. We use their own tactics against them, the mechanic said, his eyes lighting up with an idea. This ship is their technology, right? If we can figure out how it works, we can turn it into a weapon they won't see coming. The team got to work, focusing on the ship's weapon systems. Echo guided them through the process, explaining how the ship's quantum flux energy could be harnessed to create devastating attacks. They discovered that the ship was equipped with a weapon called the Singularity Cannon, which could create miniature black holes to tear enemy ships apart. But there was a catch. The Singularity Cannon requires a massive amount of energy, the scientist explained. If we use it, it could drain the ship's power completely. We'd only get one shot. Then we'll make it count, the soldier said firmly. As they prepared for the battle ahead, the team also had to confront their own fears and doubts. The mechanic, who had always been confident in his abilities, began to question whether he was good enough to pull this off. The scientist, who had always relied on logic and reason, found herself grappling with the enormity of what they were about to face. And the soldier, who had always been a man of action, struggled with the weight of responsibility. One night, as they took a rare break from their work, the mechanic broke the silence. Do you ever wonder why we're the ones doing this? I mean, out of all the people on Earth, why us? The scientist smiled faintly. Maybe it's because we're the ones who were willing to try. Most people would have run away from something like this. But we stayed. We're fighting. The soldier nodded. And we're not alone. We have each other. And we have this ship. That's more than the Krylos Empire expects. Their bond grew stronger as the hours ticked by. They were no longer just a team, they were a family, united by a shared purpose and an unshakable determination to protect their home. Finally, the day arrived. Echo's voice echoed through the ship, calm but urgent. Warning, Krylos fleet entering Earth's atmosphere. Prepare for battle. The team took their positions, their hearts pounding but their resolve unwavering. The mechanic manned the ship's controls, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The scientist monitored the ship's systems, ready to make adjustments as needed. And the soldier stood ready, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the approaching enemy fleet. The Krylos ships were even more terrifying up close. They loomed in the sky like dark shadows, their weapons glowing with a menacing light. The lead ship, a massive dreadnought, began to descend toward the Earth's surface, its intent clear. This is it, the soldier said, his voice tight with tension. We've got one shot. Make it count. The mechanic took a deep breath and activated the Singularity Cannon. The ship shuddered as energy surged through its systems, the quantum flux core glowing brighter and brighter. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The cannon unleashed a blinding beam of energy, streaking through the sky toward the Krylos dreadnought. For a moment, everything seemed to stand still. And then, the beam hit its target. The Singularity Cannon's beam struck the Krylos dreadnought with a force that shook the heavens. A blinding flash of light erupted, followed by a shockwave that rippled through the atmosphere. The team watched in awe as the dreadnought's hull began to collapse in on itself, consumed by the miniature black hole created by the cannon. For a moment, it seemed like they had won. But their celebration was short-lived. The rest of the Krylos fleet, though momentarily stunned, quickly regrouped. The lead ship's destruction had only bought them a little time. Echo, status report, the scientist shouted, her eyes darting across the ship's control panels. Singularity cannon offline. Quantum flux energy depleted to 12%. Shields at 40%. Enemy fleet advancing, Echo replied in its calm, mechanical voice. The mechanic cursed under his breath. We're sitting ducks out here. We need to get out of their range. The soldier gripped the edge of the console, his knuckles white. We can't run. If we don't stop them here, they'll destroy Earth. We have to fight. The scientist nodded, her mind racing. We need a new plan. The singularity cannon was our best weapon, but it's useless now. We have to find another way to use the ship's technology. As the Krylos fleet closed in, the team scrambled to come up with a solution. The mechanic suggested using the ship's advanced propulsion system to outmaneuver the enemy, while the soldier proposed targeting the fleet's weaker ships to thin their numbers. But it was the scientist who had the breakthrough. The quantum flux core, she said suddenly, her eyes lighting up. It's not just a power source, it's a weapon. If we overload it, we can create an energy pulse strong enough to disable their ships. The mechanic frowned. Overload the core? That's suicide. If we mess this up, the ship could explode and take us with it. Do we have a choice? The scientist shot back. It's either this or let them destroy Earth. We have to try. The soldier nodded grimly. She's right. We're out of options. Let's do it. With no time to waste, the team got to work. The scientist and the mechanic worked together to reroute the ship's systems, preparing the quantum flux core for overload. The soldier kept watch, his eyes glued to the holographic display as the Krylos fleet drew closer. They're almost in range, he warned. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. The mechanic's hands flew across the controls, his movements precise despite the urgency. Almost there, just a few more adjustments. The ship shuddered as the quantum flux core began to destabilize, its energy levels spiking dangerously. The air inside the ship grew hot, and the lights flickered as the system struggled to contain the power surge. Echo, calculate the blast radius, the scientist ordered. Calculating, blast radius will extend approximately 500 kilometers. Warning, this action will result in the destruction of the ship and all onboard systems, Echo replied. The team exchanged grim looks. They had known the risks, but hearing it out loud made it real. We're running out of time, the soldier shouted as the Krylos fleet opened fire. The ship's shields absorbed the first few blasts, but they wouldn't hold for long. Ready on my mark, the mechanic said, his hand hovering over the final control. 3, 2, 1, mark. He activated the overload sequence, and the ship's core erupted in a blinding burst of energy. The pulse radiated outward, a wave of light and power that swept through the Krylos fleet like a tidal wave. The enemy ships were caught off guard. Their systems shorted out, their weapons went silent, and their engines failed. The fleet was left drifting, helpless and disoriented. But the victory came at a cost. The team's ship was falling apart, its systems failing one by one as the overload took its toll. The lights flickered and died, leaving them in darkness. The air grew thin as life support systems shut down. We did it, the scientist whispered, her voice barely audible over the alarms. We stopped them. The soldier managed a faint smile. Yeah. We did. The mechanic slumped in his seat, exhausted but satisfied. Now let's hope someone down there noticed what just happened. As the ship began its final descent, the team braced themselves for impact. They had done the impossible, they had turned a broken alien ship into a weapon capable of defending Earth. But their journey was far from over. The ship plummeted toward Earth, its systems failing and its hull groaning under the strain. The team braced themselves, their hearts pounding as the ground rushed up to meet them. At the last second, the mechanic managed to activate the ship's emergency landing protocols, slowing their descent just enough to avoid a catastrophic crash. The impact was still brutal. The ship skidded across the desert, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris before finally coming to a stop. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the alarms started blaring. "Everyone okay?" the soldier asked, coughing as dust filled the air. "Barely," the mechanic groaned, clutching his side. "But the ship's not gonna make it. We need to get out of here before it blows." The team scrambled to gather what little equipment they could salvage before evacuating the ship. They stumbled out into the desert, their legs shaky and their bodies bruised. Behind them, the ship's core began to glow brighter and brighter, a sign that it was on the verge of exploding. "Run!" the scientist shouted. They didn't stop until they were a safe distance away. Moments later, the ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, sending a shockwave rippling through the desert. The team ducked behind a rocky outcrop, shielding themselves from the heat and debris. When the dust settled, they looked back at the smoldering wreckage. The ship was gone, but its mission was far from over. "We did it," the mechanic said, his voice filled with awe. "We actually stopped them." "For now," the soldier replied, his eyes scanning the horizon. "But that was just the first wave. The Krylos Empire won't give up that easily." The scientist nodded. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move. The ship's gone, but we still have the knowledge we gained from it. We can use that to build something even better." As they made their way back to civilization, the team began to realize the impact of their actions. News of the battle had spread quickly, and people around the world were talking about the mysterious explosion in the desert. Governments were scrambling to investigate, but the team knew they had to stay hidden. If the Krylos Empire found out they were still alive, they would become targets. They found refuge in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a small town. It wasn't much, but it was enough to serve as a temporary base. The team spent the next few days recovering from their injuries and planning their next steps. "We need allies," the soldier said during one of their meetings. "We can't do this alone. If we're going to build a new weapon, we'll need resources, materials, manpower, and funding." The scientist agreed. "But we have to be careful. If we reveal too much, we could attract the wrong kind of attention. We need people we can trust." The mechanic leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. "What about the resistance? The alien who brought the ship here was part of a group fighting the Krylos Empire. Maybe they're still out there." It was a long shot, but it was their best lead. The team decided to focus their efforts on finding the resistance. They used the data they had salvaged from the ship to search for clues, eventually discovering a faint signal coming from a remote region of the planet. "It's worth checking out," the scientist said. "If the resistance is still active, they might be able to help us." The team packed their gear and set out on the long journey to the signal source. Along the way, they encountered other survivors who had been affected by the Krylos Empire's attacks. They shared their story, inspiring hope in those who had lost everything. When they finally reached the source of the signal, they were met with a surprising sight: a hidden underground facility, filled with advanced technology and manned by a small group of humans and aliens. "Welcome," said a tall, silver-skinned alien as they entered the facility. "We've been expecting you." The underground facility was a marvel of technology, a stark contrast to the desolate landscape above. The team was led through a series of corridors, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in the advanced machinery and alien designs. The tall, silver-skinned alien who had greeted them introduced himself as Kale, a member of the Resistance. "We've been monitoring your progress," Kale said as they walked. "Your actions against the Krylos Empire have not gone unnoticed. You've given us hope." The scientist frowned. "If you've been watching us, why didn't you help sooner? We could have used your support." Kale's expression darkened. The resistance is scattered and weak. The Krylos Empire has hunted us to the brink of extinction. We couldn't risk revealing ourselves until we were sure you were ready. The soldier crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing. And are we? Ready, I mean. Kale stopped and turned to face them. You've proven yourselves resourceful and determined. But the road ahead will be difficult. The Krylos Empire is more powerful than you can imagine. If we're going to defeat them, we'll need to work together. The team exchanged glances, their resolve hardening. They had come this far, and they weren't about to back down now. Over the next few days, the team worked closely with the resistance to develop a plan. They shared the knowledge they had gained from the alien ship, and in return, the resistance provided them with advanced technology and resources. Together, they began building a new weapon, a prototype ship designed to harness the power of the quantum flux core on a much larger scale. But the work was not without its challenges. The team faced constant setbacks, from technical difficulties to supply shortages. The pressure was immense, and tensions ran high as they struggled to meet their deadlines. One night, after a particularly grueling day, the mechanic snapped. "This is impossible. We're never going to finish this thing in time. The Krylos Empire could attack any day, and we're still stuck on the basics." The scientist placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice calm but firm. "We'll get there. We just have to keep pushing. Remember why we're doing this." The soldier nodded. "She's right. We can't afford to give up. Not now." Their determination paid off. Slowly but surely, the new ship began to take shape. It was larger and more powerful than the original, with enhanced weapons and defenses. The team named it the Phoenix, a symbol of hope rising from the ashes of their previous failure. But as the Phoenix neared completion, the team received devastating news. The Krylos Empire had launched a massive attack on a nearby city, reducing it to rubble in a matter of hours. The death toll was staggering, and the team was forced to confront the harsh reality of the war they were fighting. "This is our fault," the mechanic said, his voice filled with guilt. "If we had been faster, stronger, maybe we could have stopped this." Kale shook his head. "The Krylos Empire is responsible for this, not you. But every moment we delay, more lives are lost. We must finish the Phoenix and strike back before it's too late." The team redoubled their efforts, working around the clock to complete the ship. They knew the stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. Finally, the day came. The Phoenix was ready, its sleek hull gleaming under the facility's lights. The team stood before it, their hearts filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "This is it," the scientist said, her voice steady. "We've done everything we can. Now it's up to us to see this through." The soldier nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Let's finish this." As they boarded the Phoenix and prepared for launch, the team knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger. But they also knew that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. They were fighting for Earth, for humanity, and for the future of all life in the galaxy. The Phoenix roared to life, its engines humming with power. The team took their positions, their eyes fixed on the horizon. The final battle was about to begin. The Phoenix soared into the sky, its engines roaring as it broke through the atmosphere and entered the vast expanse of space. The team sat in the cockpit, their eyes fixed on the stars ahead. The weight of their mission hung heavy in the air, but there was no turning back now. Kale, who had joined them for the mission, stood at the back of the cockpit, his silver skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "The Krylos Empire's main fleet is stationed near the edge of your solar system," he said, pointing to a holographic map that displayed the enemy's positions. "If we can take out their command ship, we can cripple their forces and buy Earth some time." The soldier studied the map, his brow furrowed. "That's easier said than done. Their command ship is heavily guarded. We'll never get close enough to take it down." Not with brute force, the scientist said, her eyes lighting up with an idea. But what if we use their own tactics against them? The Krylos Empire relies on predictability and precision. If we can disrupt their systems, we can create an opening. The mechanic leaned forward, intrigued. You mean like a virus? Something that can mess with their controls? Exactly, the scientist replied. The Phoenix is equipped with advanced hacking technology. If we can get close enough to their command ship, we can upload a virus that will disable their weapons and communications. Kale nodded in approval. It's a risky plan, but it could work. The Krylos Empire's ships are interconnected. If we take down the command ship, the rest of the fleet will be vulnerable. The team spent the next few hours refining their plan. They knew that timing would be critical, one wrong move, and the entire mission could fall apart. The Phoenix's advanced cloaking technology would help them get close to the command ship, but they would only have a small window of opportunity to upload the virus. As they approached the edge of the solar system, the Krylos fleet came into view. It was a terrifying sight, dozens of massive ships, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. The command ship loomed at the center of the formation, a monstrous vessel that seemed to radiate menace. Activate cloaking, the soldier ordered, his voice tight with tension. The Phoenix's cloaking device hummed to life, rendering the ship invisible to the enemy's sensors. They moved slowly and carefully, avoiding detection as they closed in on the command ship. We're in position, the mechanic said, his hands steady on the controls. Ready to upload the virus on your mark. The scientist nodded, her fingers flying across the console. Uploading in 3, 2, 1, mark. The virus was unleashed, a burst of digital code that infiltrated the command ship systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the enemy ship's lights flickered, and its weapons went silent. It's working, the scientist exclaimed, her voice filled with relief. But their celebration was short-lived. The Krylos fleet, though momentarily disoriented, quickly adapted. The command ship's secondary systems kicked in, and the enemy began to regroup. We've got company, the soldier said grimly, as a swarm of smaller ships broke away from the fleet and headed straight for them. The mechanic gritted his teeth. Time to see what this ship can really do. The Phoenix sprang into action, its weapons blazing as it engaged the enemy. The team fought with everything they had, their movements coordinated and precise. The ship's advanced technology gave them an edge, but the Krylos forces were relentless. We can't keep this up forever, the scientist warned, as the Phoenix's shields began to weaken. We need to finish this now. Kale stepped forward, his expression grim. There's one more option. The Phoenix's quantum flux core can be overloaded, just like the original ship. If we detonate it near the command ship, the explosion will take out the entire fleet. The team fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Overloading the core would mean sacrificing themselves, but it might be the only way to save Earth. The soldier was the first to speak. If that's what it takes, then we do it. We knew the risks when we started this mission. The mechanic and the scientist nodded in agreement, their faces filled with determination. Kale placed a hand on the soldier's shoulder. You are brave, all of you. The galaxy will remember your sacrifice. The team took their positions, their hearts heavy but their resolve unshakable. The Phoenix turned toward the command ship, its engines roaring as it accelerated toward its target. The final countdown had begun. The Phoenix hurtled toward the Krylos command ship, its engines blazing as the team prepared for their final act. The cockpit was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the hum of the ship's systems and the occasional beep of the control panels. Each member of the team knew what was coming, but there was no fear, only resolve. Overload sequence initiated, the scientist said, her voice steady as she entered the final commands. Quantum flux core destabilizing. Estimated time to detonation, 3 minutes. The mechanic tightened his grip on the controls, his eyes fixed on the massive command ship looming ahead. "We're not gonna make it out of this, are we?" The soldier shook his head. "No. But Earth will. That's all that matters." Kale, standing at the back of the cockpit, placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. "Your courage will not be forgotten. The resistance will carry on your legacy." The team exchanged glances, their bond stronger than ever. They had come so far, faced so many challenges, and now they were about to make the ultimate sacrifice. But they were at peace with their decision. As the Phoenix closed in on the command ship, the Krylos fleet began to react. Enemy fighters swarmed around them, their weapons firing relentlessly. The Phoenix's shields flickered and failed, and the ship shuddered under the barrage of attacks. "Shields down," the mechanic shouted, his hands flying across the controls as he tried to evade the incoming fire. "We're taking heavy damage." "Stay on course," the soldier ordered, his voice firm. "We can't let them stop us now." The scientist monitored the quantum flux core, her heart racing as the energy levels continued to rise. 2 minutes to detonation. "We're almost there." The Phoenix pushed forward, its hull battered and scorched but still holding together. The command ship grew larger and larger in the viewport, its dark silhouette filling the team's vision. "1 minute," the scientist said, her voice barely above a whisper. The mechanic glanced at his companions, a faint smile on his face. "It's been an honor, you guys. I wouldn't have wanted to do this with anyone else." The soldier nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Same here. We did what we had to do." The scientist reached out and took their hands, her grip firm. "For Earth. For Earth," they echoed. The final seconds ticked away, the tension in the cockpit almost unbearable. The Phoenix was now within range of the command ship, its hull glowing with the energy of the overloaded core. 10 seconds, the scientist said, her voice calm. 9, 8, 7. The team closed their eyes, their hearts pounding in unison. 6, 5, 4. The Phoenix's hull began to crack, the energy within it straining to break free. 3, 2, 1. The quantum flux core reached critical mass, and the Phoenix exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled through space, engulfing the Krylos command ship and the surrounding fleet. The enemy ships were torn apart, their hulls disintegrating under the force of the blast. For a moment, the solar system was filled with light, a beacon of hope in the darkness. Back on Earth, people looked up at the sky, their hearts filled with awe and gratitude. The light from the explosion was visible even from the surface, a reminder of the sacrifice that had been made to protect their planet. In the days that followed, the world came together to rebuild and prepare for the future. The resistance, inspired by the team's bravery, continued to fight against the remnants of the Krylos Empire. The story of the Phoenix and its crew spread across the galaxy, a symbol of courage and unity. The team's sacrifice had not been in vain. They had given humanity a chance to survive, to thrive, and to carry on their legacy. And as the stars twinkled in the night sky, a single phrase echoed in the hearts of all who remembered their story.